The lake was calm enough to mirror the sky, and the air tasted like pine and freedom. I had driven up before dawn, eager for a quiet weekend on the 12-acre slice of land I bought with every savings dollar I had. I'd mowed the grass, stacked a neat pile of hardwood, and set my little propane grill facing the water. The first hiss of gas and click of the igniter felt like a promise. Nothing and no one could spoil this peace. The burgers hit the grate with a cheer. Smoke drifted upward, sweet and slow. I closed my eyes, listening to waves lap the dock planks, then a car door slammed behind me. Tires crunched over gravel. I laid myself. When I turned, a woman in a bright blazer and sensible heels marched toward the deck, clipboard clutched like a sword. Her mouth was already moving. Grills aren't permitted on common property. Didn't you read the bylaws? Common property. My pulse ticked up. Morning, I said, using the calm voice I keep for sales clerks and rattlesnakes. This is private land. Deeded to me, recorded in the county office. No HOA here. She snorted. I'm the president of Lakeside Shores Homeowners Association. All shoreline lots fall under our rules. Section 14, no open flames, no barbecuing. Some HOAs really do ban every form of grilling, claiming insurance risks and blanket safety codes. I wiped my hands on a towel, breathing smoke and disbelief. My survey pins are 200 feet east of your gate. The plat shows a gap between your development and my parcel. Want to see it? She ignored the offer. Clip-clop went her heels across my dock boards. With every step she looked less like a neighbor and more like a storm warning. I kept telling myself to stay polite. After all, HOA boards can enforce plenty of backyard rules, but only inside their own jurisdiction. Her eyes darted to the sizzling patties. Put that fire out right now, or I call the authorities. A flicker of anger licked my throat. I leaned on the rail, voice steady. Ma'am, you're trespassing. You're also making false claims about ownership. Let's not escalate. She pulled out her phone. Dispatch. Yes, I need officers at Lakeside Shore Lane, lot. It's the cabin with the illegal barbecue. The trespasser is refusing to leave. I feel threatened. Threatened? My hands shook, part rage, part raw disbelief, but I pressed record on my own phone. 9 minutes, I told myself. That's the average response time out here. Stay calm for 9 minutes. While she rattled off lies, I studied her face. Clipped hair, tight jaw, eyes that said rules were weapons, not guidelines. Stories online had warned me, HOA Karens, who screamed about leashes, lawns, even service dogs before the real facts buried them. But reading a blog is nothing like watching one unfold on your dock. The burgers burned. I flipped them anyway, the hiss sounding louder against her shrill voice. He's got flames dangerously close to the tree lean, she insisted. I glanced at the bare 10-foot buffer I clear every spring, more than state code demands. My stomach knotted when distant sirens whispered through the trees. Every childhood lesson about respect the badge collided with the adult fear that truth alone might not beat an eager caller's story. Still, I straightened my shoulders. I had the deed in a weatherproof folder on the deck table, right next to my survey map and the receipts for property taxes, paper shields against manufactured authority. She ended the call with a prim smile. You'll be gone soon, she said, as if the words tasted sweet. Our board has had enough of squatters. Squatter. Heat crawled up my neck. You've got 99 problems, madam, and all of them start when the officers read this deed. She folded her arms, nose twitching at the smoke. I wondered if she'd ever sat by a lake, let juice drip down her wrist from a half-charred burger, felt the kind of small joy that makes people generous. Maybe rules fed her sense of place the way quiet feeds mine. Gravel popped again. 2 county cruisers rolled into view, red and blue lights washing the pines. Less than 9 minutes. She waved, beckoning them with practiced innocence. I set down my spatula, heart hammering, but there was also a glowing vein of steel inside me now. False reports waste police time. In some states they're a crime themselves. And HOAs that overreach onto separate parcels can be dragged into costly legal battles. Doors opened. Boots crunched. One officer headed toward her, the other toward me. I felt the world tighten into a single moment. Truth versus bluster, documents versus decibels. The breeze carried the smell of seared beef and pine sap. Somewhere up the lake a loon called, long and low, as if reminding me the water had seen bigger dramas and always returned to calm. I raised my phone, thumb poised on the deed envelope, and breathed deep. The first officer's shadow stretched across the deck. I didn't move. I didn't speak. I just waited for the question I knew was coming. The officer gave me a quick once-over, grill still sizzling, drink still untouched, no music, no crowd, just me and the woods and this ridiculous situation. He said calmly, "Mind if I ask what's going on?" I nodded, kept my voice level. "Sure thing, officer. I'm on my own property. Deeded. Bought it outright 3 years ago. She," I motioned with a tilt of my head, "came onto my land, started demanding I shut down my grill because of HOA rules." The officer glanced over at her. She was still talking fast to his partner, waving her arms and pointing at the trees like she was narrating a crime scene. I handed him the manila envelope from the table. "This is the deed. County records. I've got surveys in there too. I don't live under her HOA. My land is private, no shared roads, no shared utilities." He took the papers, stepped aside, and started reading. I watched his brow crease, then relax. He looked up and said, "Looks legit." I nodded once. "It is." She told Dispatch I was trespassing on my own land. She said she felt threatened, but I haven't moved a step toward her. I just told her she's not welcome here and asked her to leave. He gave me a small, tired sigh, like maybe he'd been to this rodeo before. "Yeah, we get these kinds of calls now and then. HOA disputes can get messy." "But this isn't a dispute," I said, my voice a little firmer now. "I don't belong to her HOA. She has no say here. She's trespassing." He nodded. "You're right." His partner walked over with her behind him, and her expression had changed. No more smugness. Her face was pink, and her lips were tight like she was holding back words that didn't work anymore. The second officer asked, "Do you have any documentation that includes her HOA boundaries?" I opened the folder again and pulled out the plat map. It was highlighted, my land outlined in red, the HOA boundaries in blue. There was a clear gap. Both officers looked it over. "This matches the county record," the first one said. "She's outside of her jurisdiction." She tried to cut in, but the board agreed. "No, ma'am," the officer interrupted, firm but polite. "This property isn't part of your association. You can't enforce any HOA rules here." She went silent. Just like that, the storm lost its wind. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. But I won't lie, I felt it. That slow wave of justice, of being heard, of watching someone who tried to steamroll you run out of gas in front of witnesses. One officer turned to her. "We're going to have to ask you to leave the premises." She hesitated, glanced at me, then walked off, heels clicking on the gravel, her power play shattered in the daylight. I watched her car reverse, then disappear down the road. And I finally flipped the burger one last time. The next morning, I drove straight to my lawyer's office with the folder still on the passenger seat. I hadn't even unpacked the cooler. Something about the way she spoke, so sure, so entitled, made me think this wasn't a one-time power trip. If she had tried it with me, she'd probably done it to others too. And not everyone has paperwork ready at the grill. My lawyer looked through the documents, then pulled up some public records. It didn't take long. Turns out the Lakeside Shores HOA had been quietly expanding their influence, unofficially, of course. They were handing out pamphlets, posting rules on trees near the waterline, even trying to charge maintenance fees to landowners nearby who weren't under their jurisdiction. All intimidation. No legal standing. We drafted a formal cease and desist that same afternoon. It outlined the false claim to authority, the trespassing, and the false 911 report. Then we sent it to the HOA board and their property management company. We gave them 10 business days to respond, or we'd take it to court. The response came fast, way faster than I expected. A nervous letter from the HOA's attorney, full of backpedaling and legal fluff, but the message was clear: they didn't want to fight. They agreed to remove all posted signs outside their official boundaries. They acknowledged my property was not under their control. And most importantly, They promised their board members would stop approaching adjacent landowners on behalf of the HOA. I didn't hear a single word from Karen. No apology. No explanation. Nothing. But I did get calls from two neighbors I hadn't met before. One said he'd been harassed about building a fire pit. Another said he was threatened with fines for putting up a small dock. They both thanked me for standing up, for drawing the line, for proving these people weren't above the law. 2 weeks later, I drove back to the cabin. The lake greeted me like an old friend, still and wide, sun hitting the water like glass. The old HOA sign that once stood just outside my gate? Gone. The threatening notices stapled to trees? Gone too. I fired up the grill again, same as before. The sizzle was sweeter this time. Not because the food was better, but because now it was mine in every way. No interruptions. No clipboard warriors. Just the quiet crackle of flame, the breeze off the lake, and the long stretch of peace I fought to protect. As I sat down with my plate, I looked toward the old road she came in from. Empty now. Just trees and gravel. No footsteps. No drama. Just silence. And in that silence, I could finally hear it, the deep, satisfying quiet that only comes when justice speaks louder than entitlement.